All right, we're following this. We're also following the two neighboring governors, Governor Cuomo in New York and Governor Murphy in New Jersey. We told you that they're both trying to crack down on people gathering outside. The New York governor, of course, shutting down parks in the city to sort of emphasize the point that the New Jersey governor is trying to make sure that people are not on the road at 8 p.m. all the way to 5 a.m. the next day by barricading off exits onto all the major highways. That could be the New Jersey Turnpike, the Garden State Parkway, 287, 78, some of these more popular travel venues in the state, making it virtually impossible for you to get on the road when you want to get on the road if you're not a vital employee. It's how they discern that and enforce that. In New York's case, the governor is saying he will recruit the police to crack down on people who don't do what he says and are not mindful of their responsibility to shelter in place. So let's get the read on all of this from Colin McShane. We have Scott Martin, Lily Gilvalletta. Lily, let me ask you a little bit about how this is affecting even your business. You know, you have a good ear to average folks, small, medium-sized businesses, those who are directly impacted by some of the orders these governors are giving. Tell me how that's going.
Well, of course, we're all impacted. I am a services business, and my clients, big corporations, are halting or pausing or canceling altogether activities that involve gatherings or engaging customers. So everyone, I think this virus, just as medically doesn't discriminate, is doing the same for us business owners and trying to catch up with all the things that are being passed as benefits. It's going to take some time for us to sort through all of it, submit the applications, and get the benefit. In the meantime, we're caught making very hard decisions that unfortunately impact our people.
You know, what they have to do a lot of the time, Scott Martin, is businesses, encouraged as they are that, you know, loans and grants are potentially coming from Uncle Sam, that doesn't mean they don't lay off now. Scores of companies are doing that, and many of them are not getting this aid at all. So I'm wondering we're going to see a lot more of that. I mean, Connell raised earlier this possibility that the latest claims numbers could rival what we got last week, and that's just going to accelerate. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it will. I think Connell's spot on as usual. You know, and you're right, Neil. I mean, whether it's dollars or cents, when you're a business owner like I am too, I mean, we're in the money management investment business, it becomes a confidence issue. I mean, you can get all the dollars in the world thrown at you from the government. I frankly like what Blake was talking about earlier about some forgiveness, or let's say some leaving as far as the tax burden for the corporations on what they can spend money on. I too spend a lot of money at McDonald's, Neil, so I'm up for that. But maybe even something with the income tax, too. Maybe an income tax forgiveness for a few months. But the reality is all that stuff is great, but it always comes back to confidence. And it's the same thing with the S&P 500 stock prices. If there's confidence in the future, if there's confidence in growth, that's when you start seeing higher prices, and we're just not there yet.
You know, Connell, you and I have gotten into this as well, that what's going to move the markets, I think, as if they're the epicenter of the world. They're not, but they're driven by the same things average folks are, and that is some window or light at the end of the tunnel on this virus. We're not getting that, and I'm wondering when we hear Governor Cuomo talk about having the New York City police get more aggressive when it comes to enforcing social distancing, the New Jersey governor saying the same thing. They're clearly upping the ante here, and I'm wondering how that plays out.
I think they're clearly trying to control, Neil, what they can control, right? Because they're all looking at the same models that everybody is looking at now. And, you know, I go back to that University of Washington model that I mentioned earlier in the show that Governor Cuomo had cited. The next month, this month, we're April, today's April 1st. So by the end of April, there's going to be, according to this model at least, a huge surge in deaths in New York City, a huge surge in resources needed in New York State. So if you have just under 2,000 people dead now, and you're looking at a model that shows by the end of the month, I have it on the computer right here to the side, by April 30th, this particular model shows the total deaths in New York at 15,987. So that's what the governor's looking at. He's just said so. He's looking at that. So he says, well, this can be controlled a little bit, to the extent that if we could do anything at all to make that number lower, we're going to do it. So we're closing down the playgrounds, and we're going to try to get through this month. And to go back to your first point about the markets, Neil, we know April's a disaster economically. Scott was just talking about some of these figures we're going to see. What we don't know is, what does May look like? What does June look like? What does July look like? So the hardest hit area will get hit the hardest now. The one thing I would add, and the governor said this, I thought this was interesting in his news conference, I think he may have said it a few times the last few days, he says, what we're looking at here today is what you might be looking at in another part of the country tomorrow, warning other parts of the country that they may, have tough times ahead of them.
Yeah. And Neil, if I may, in New York, I'm here in New York, I'm in my apartment with my family. And what is a compounding effect, we're not only the epicenter of this horrible disease, but this is the mecca for the marketing and advertising industry, which is being hit really hard because brands are going dark. This is the mecca of entertainment in many ways. We have Broadway that is 150 million, upwards of that every single month, that has stopped. So it is a compounding effect of what it means to a city like New York that is so admired by the outside world, as where pop culture and fashion and sensibility that informs everyone else comes from, which is being shut down. We have to reconfigure what that means for the world, and also assess that this is so much bigger than, of course, the human life loss, but the industries that are housed in the very city that is the epicenter of this epidemic.
No, you're right about that. Guys, I want to thank you all very, very much. We are monitoring.